And we are live. I want to welcome everyone to Beyond the Woodline. I've got a very interesting guest, Mr. Wade Kendall. Mr. Wade Kendall, say hi to everyone, please.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Hey, thanks for joining me, man. We were having a pretty good conversation up until we got until we got ready to come on live. So I was getting involved in that. And I was like, man, we need to just go live and just start talking. I usually like to build a
Yeah,
rapport, beforehand, and that was a pretty good rapport we had going. So that was pretty good. Uh, a very
it
interesting.
was it was a good discussion. It really was.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, there's other things that I definitely want to have you on for that we were discussing too to talk about. So that'll be an interesting subject when that comes around.
You
But
bet.
in the meantime, tell us a little bit about yourself if you don't mind.
Oh, not at all. I was born in 1955 on December 8th, which is odd. It is to the Catholics, it's the feast of the Immaculate Conception.
Okay.
And the way that figures in, I think to me, and when I was a kid all the way through high school, I could not figure out how I came into being. My mom and dad got married. They lived around Roswell, Corona, Cedarvale area in New Mexico. Uh, they had my sister. About 3 to 5 years later, they had my mom got pregnant again. This one turned out to be an ectopic, and the resultant infection took out her ovaries. So she really wasn't producing any eggs. And the doc said, "You'll never have another one again, little mama. Just be happy you got the little girl." 5 years later, I'm here. So I have my theories. My sister has her theories, and probably we'll never know exactly what happened. But I was, and it's going to sound like a brag, and it's really not a brag. It's just fact. And it's nothing but numbers unless you know how to use it. And I was born with a 181 IQ.
Okay.
And
Wow.
they wanted to send me to a special school, but my parents didn't want that. My mom said that, and I didn't know what my IQ was until my sister told me years later.
Oh. Oh wow.
That
Okay.
IQ is just enough. And if you don't know how to use it, it doesn't mean anything. And I'm kind of grateful to my parents for that, actually. It's,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, yeah. Uh, oh, quit phone. The I knew I'd lose that train of thought if I stopped. Oh, so back to I was basically your normal precocious little kid. Had some really odd dreams as a child. I can remember back to about 18 months, but fully remember back to about 3 years old.
Okay.
And I would play, I would run, I would catch grasshoppers. I loved grasshoppers. And I woke up one morning, it was before I started school. So I had to be 4 or 5, terrified of them.
Really?
If they get on me, I will take a burning stick to get those things off. It is a an unexplainable terror, and I mean terror, and it exists to this day, and I'm 65.
Wow. Wow.
So something in between happened, but I'm not sure what. So as time went on, I went through high school, graduated, got a scholarship to New Mexico Institute of Mining and Technology, which at the time was one of the top 5 schools in the nation. Went there, got a really good education there, but found out that most people did not believe in life in other planets. They're too far away. You can't get here from there. I heard every excuse. And I said, No. I go, if the Einstein-Rosen bridge works and they can stabilize that, you can step across anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because all you're doing is folding space-time. And you can fold a piece of paper till it's flat. And I'm assuming that depending upon the gravity well, you can do the same thing with space-time. I've been doing some math and working on that and trying to see why 115 isn't stable, and it should be. But tech, everybody sort of took the hard line of science. Doesn't exist, can't prove it. There you go.
Right.
Well, they had 3 major parties at tech every year because you had to have something to blow off the stress. So this was October 23rd, 1975. And I can remember that date for one reason. One, it was my sister's birthday, and 2, Tom Snyder was on the Tomorrow Show that night with Betty Hill. We were walking down underneath the girls' dormitory was a kind of looked like a mine. It was called the Ore House. And you could go down there. It was free beer, free drinks, whatever. My friend and I had already dropped acid and we're headed for and he goes, oh, let's go smoke a joint on the drainage ditch. And I said, okay. Now, it makes no sense to do that because at tech at that time, you could just walk across campus smoking a joint. Sterling Colgate was our president, and you could smoke a joint with him walking across campus. It was an interesting campus. So we get in my little white Pinto, and we drive down to the drainage ditch, and we're driving along, and off to my left, I see this light. And I looked at it, and it comes over the top of, right out in front of the car. Car sputters, lights die. And I'm thinking, well, it's a standard. I've taken my foot off the clutch. Something has caused the car to die. And I'm looking at this thing, and I can see that it has what looks like windows and looks like stuff moving behind it. So I thought, it's the drug. I will ask my friend because people cannot have the same hallucination. So I turned and I looked at Paige, and I said, do you see anything out there? And he was as white as a ghost. And it was just a vowel movement of obscenities, get us out of here, get us now. And that's the last memory I have. The next memory I have is 13 miles down the drainage ditch. I'm driving. And I come out to, there's a highway that will either you turn right, you go back to San Antonio, New Mexico, or you turn left and you go towards White Sands. And right over the highway is this bright white light. And it's just bathed the highway in light. And Page looks at me and he's calmed down a lot. And he goes, oh, what a pretty star. And I went, that ain't no star. I did a U-turn that would make a moonshiner proud. I spun that car around and headed it back to tech. So we come in, and Page's roommate, Rex, is awake. And he's watching TV. And on TV is Tom Snyder. And Tom has Betty Hill on, and she's talking to Betty, or he's talking to Betty Hill. And she goes, oh, I had a bust made of what she called him the commander looked like. And she brings out this bust. And all of a sudden, Page, who was like 6'3", he was a gentle giant, just went nuts. And he goes, this is bullshit. This is nothing but bullshit. It's all lies. He walks over, yanks the plug from the TV set. Now, it's a little black and white with a little antenna on top and some tinfoil. It goes off onto the floor. Page is out the door and gone. Rex looks at me and goes, should we go after him? I go, yeah, I think it would be a good idea. We got him. He went and spent the night with his girlfriend, and we never talked about it after that, ever. It never came up. And we were roommates for 5 years.
Wow.
Never came up. Not once. Now, a year later, I have a dream. And in the dream, there is a craft that is just between West Hall and President's Hall, which is where I slept. Paige and I's room was. In my dream, I was taken through the wall. Now, the sensation of going through the wall is, I've heard it compared to, oh, it's like feathers, it's like this. It's not like that. It's like your molecules slide right through the molecules of the wall. It's a very strange sensation. And I'm on a table that really looks like it has grown out of the floor. There's nothing in there that's a seam anywhere. It's a funny color green. I can't really focus my eyes real well, and I keep trying to wake up, but I can't. Now, there's a bunch of little bitty guys running around the table. Now, I can't see them. I cannot say that they were grays, purples, yellows. I don't know. They were just about 3.5 feet tall. And this thing came down from the ceiling, kind of looked like an eye. It would start at the top of my head. It would go all the way down to my feet. And then it would come all the way back up and then go back up to the ceiling. It kind of looked like it was on a gooseneck. It was the strangest thing. And I kept trying to wake up. Finally, a taller being walks in. And I know somehow that this is a female. And this person has control of everything. And there's a knock on my dorm room door. She turns, looks at me. I hear, "We're finished." And I'm awake. It's now noon. I have missed all my classes, morning classes. My friends are worried about me, so they come over. I open up the door. Everybody comes in. And I'm sitting, Paige and I had bunk beds. I had the bottom bunk. And Paige comes in from class. I go, "When you left here this morning, was I in bed? Did you physically see me?" And he goes, "Yeah, you were there." I go, you laid eyes on my body." He goes, "Oh, no, you were under the cover. There was just a lump, but yeah, you were there." I don't sleep under the cover. I generate way too much heat.
Yeah.
So there was that one. Shortly after that, was an odd experience. There came a knock at the dorm room door. It was spring of 77. And I opened up the door. The gong show was on inside, which we called the bong show for various and sundry reasons. And my friend is sitting in there. And I walk out, and there's these two guys in black, shiny FBI shoes. They look at me. They have on black sunglasses, black hat. Sunglasses don't come off. They found my dorm room like that. So this one looks at me, and when I open the door and I see two suits, I pull the door behind me, and a cloud of green smoke follows me out. And they go, "Do you know this person?" I go, "Oh, yeah, I do." "Well, he's given you as a recommendation for his background check." And I said, "Oh, okay." Now he's in the room right behind me. "What can I do for you? Are you aware of any un-American activities that he may be involved in?" And I'm thinking, besides the one in the other room, no. I really can't. And that was the only question they asked. I turned around and walked away. And I never really thought about it until later, when I started having black cars following me around. And this has continued up until recent times.
And let me stop you real quick, if you don't mind. I just want to make a couple of
Sure,
comments.
sure.
So the first thing that you talked about was like being in the room. I don't know if you want to call it a craft or not, but you were definitely like in some kind of a room that didn't have any seams in it.
Correct.
You're like you're the third person that I've talked to who has told me that. You talked about the little gray ones, or I don't know if you said little gray one, but the little beings with the taller one. The other people also told me about that. And then there was something. Oh, going through the walls. Yeah. So I've talked to 3 different people about that, and they've all mentioned going through the walls too. So that was pretty interesting.
It's the strangest feeling. I don't know.
Yeah. That's really interesting. It's different when if you hear like one person say it, because the first time I heard it, I was like the first time I heard it. But I'm not into the whole UFO thing. I think we talked earlier. I'm just getting involved in that and the paranormal stuff. So when I first heard it, I'm like, okay, you know what? Then I hear it again from a second person. Now I'm hearing it from you. So it's pretty interesting stuff, man. So yeah,
It is.
yeah.
Yeah. The familiar. Let's try this again. Get that tongue to work right. The familiarities between cases is what we have a plethora of evidence to back this up. I've sent you some pictures.
Right.
And I think it's really high time that somebody came out and actually said what they know.
Right.
I've only had one besides the grasshopper, and I am sure that somehow is alien related. But I've only had one that scared me, and it wasn't, as far as I know, there were no aliens involved. I had laid down. I came in from ER. I used to be a registered nurse in the ER. Then I was a pharmacist. I came in, went to bed, and just as I laid down in my left ear, I hear 3 tones. Now, I played music for a living. I couldn't identify that tone. I have since, because of binaural beats, identified it as 936 hertz. But at the time, I didn't know that. So these 3 tones hit, and I lose all volition of will. None. I get out of bed, put my clothes back on, go out the front door, lock the door, walk down the front path to the gate, open up our gate, and close it. Now, we lived 22 miles south of Albuquerque, and the little place that we lived was called Peralta Loop, and it was just a loop dirt road. That's all it was. And if you turned down that dirt road, you were looking directly at our house. So I opened up the gate, and I'm standing there, and I look down, and I see these lights come around the corner, and it's a long car, pulls up in front of our gate, had suicide doors. And I tell this to people, and they don't know what suicide doors are anymore. It's the doors that would open both ways.
Right.
Yeah. So suicide doors open, a guy in a black, I would say almost body armor. It was an odd looking uniform with a black beret and a blue patch. And the thing that really caught my eye was the AR-16 he had in his hand. And he motioned for me to get in the car. And I did. And I sat down next to 4 other people who looked exactly the way I felt. Sitting across from us on either side of 2 officers. Now, there are flags on the wheel wells that have little gold tassels on them. So I'm pretty sure this is our government doing this. They came, we get just south of Albuquerque, and they make a turn to go out to Coyote Canyon. And Coyote Canyon is a test site on Kirtland Sandia. My uncle used to be the main security guard there. Been there many, many times. And we get out, car stops, we're put out, the guys with the guns are behind us. That's concerning to me. And the officers are in front of us, and this one takes what looks just to be like a TV remote control and goes, doot, and the old Star Trek transporter type, whee, that's kind of what it looked like.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, there's a craft on the ground.
Huh.
And I'm looking at this thing, and they motion for us to go forward. And as I'm going up the ramp, I look on one side of the craft, and there's an American flag. But the star field's wrong. The star field is in the upper right-hand corner. It's not in the upper left-hand corner. That struck me as odd, and I turned to the other side, and I saw an insignia that I've never seen before, and I haven't seen it since. And we're let in. We're never taken up into the craft. We are taken down into the bottom, and it's round, padded seats, the same type of whatever you want to call these, it's cross hatch that you would use in a race car. Were connected to us. And all of a sudden it started to hum. And as the hum grew louder, the floor got clear. And I could see the ground. And then all of a sudden the earth fell away. There was no sense of movement. I just watched the earth fall away to a little bitty, bitty, bitty blue dot. And that's the last account I have of that.
Oh, wow.
Next account I have was going back to bed. This one is the one that caused me to contact Bud Hopkins.
Okay.
And Bud listened to all of my stuff, and he goes, you know, there is no doubt about it that you were taken, probably as a child. He goes, but this last one worries me, and I'm going to have somebody call you and talk to you. I talked to a lady out here, and I can't find her again, by the name of Catherine McCampbell. And we talked for 2.5 hours on the phone. And the thing that concerned her the most was the ability of our military to be able to use sound to control people. And that was part of Project Red Light, I think. I can't remember. Looked into too many of those black op projects. Yeah. But that's where my concern is if we don't get rid of this cloaking of secrecy,
right?
Then, and we've turned loose the military with this type of weaponry. That's a mistake. That's a big mistake.
Yeah, I know that has been around for a while. The fact that the government uses sound. Yeah, that I don't know if you want to call it a theory or not, conspiracy theory, but yeah, that's been around for a little while. You know, so it's interesting.
Yeah, it's and the odd thing about it is it's how binaural beats work as well. You put
what is that?
Earbuds, what binaural beats. Have you ever heard of this? Yeah,
no, I never have.
That's how they work.
Okay.
Oh, okay. But binaural beat is you put on a set of headphones like you got, or earbuds, whatever, and it will put one tone in one ear and another tone in another ear, and then where the two tones hit will create a frequency. And it can produce some very interesting effects. You can hallucinate on it. You can meditate on it. You can have out of body experiences. So the science behind it is very sound. It's just that they've had, anytime they come out with something, and I'll give an example. They came out just recently and said that they have equipped Navy vessels and airplanes with this weaponized laser.
Oh yeah,
I saw that laser test. I saw that laser tested in the field in 1972.
Wow.
So each time they admit to something, it's 50 to 100 years behind what they already have.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And it's just, it's frustrating, is what it is. People, I personally feel that everybody goes, oh, especially the ancient alien people. They'll come in, they'll step in, they'll stop this. And my question is, why?
Right.
If we were if according to them we were built as slaves, they're not going to look at us any differently. So
Right.
why would they come back because some idiot gave the monkeys matches? And and I say this as a scientist, they always ask, can we do this? They never ask, should we do this?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that several times before too. No, one thing I wanted to add too is that another piece of information that you kind of validated for me too was the fact that he said that when you were taken, you could see the Earth. I had someone tell me that story too. That's what happened to them when they were taken. That the floor kind of became clear and they were able to see everything.
Yeah, you could see. It was so odd, and the soil when we fell, it wasn't like a dust off. Like if you're in a helicopter and the loose dust and topsoil gets blown, nothing moved except us.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Just real quick, I know we're talking to you, but my experience, I don't know if I ever told you that one, but I was actually fishing in Galveston. I don't know if you're familiar with Galveston, Texas, but it's along the coast, of course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it was me and my ex-father-in-law. We were actually on the jetties, and he's maybe 50, 60 feet down from me. And I hear him say, "Hey, Joe," and I look to my right to look at him, and he points up to my left. He goes, "Hey, what's that?" So I look up, and there's this round disc, just ever so slowly, just floating above us. Maybe it's like 300 feet above us. No noise, no wind, no lights. Like I said, completely quiet. And down maybe 2 or 3 miles to our right is a airstrip where they had the single jets, the single engine airplanes coming in, and you could hear them buzzing way over there. But this thing was right above us, no noise, no nothing, no kind of wind or anything, just ever so slowly. And so slow, something has to maintain a certain airspeed, at least something we built to stay in the air. Well, this thing was just floating like a big balloon, just like it's like a big balloon. It looked like it was on rails.
Yeah. It's and they're quiet. They are so quiet.
Yeah.
I found out through.
I was gonna say if he hadn't looked up and noticed it, we would have never have seen it or heard it, because it was just no noise at all.
And that's kind of the thing that I get here is people don't look up.
Right.
They're looking at their phone. But they don't look up. And there is stuff up here. One of the first craft I caught here on film. It is an identical image to what they show Kenneth Arnold holding that picture with the crescent with the tail. That's not what he saw, but that's the picture that they've always given with it. Kenneth Arnold, 1947. Shoot. That one may have fallen into a hole of Swiss cheese. It will roll around until it can find another place to come back out, I guess.
That's okay. Well, I'm sure we'll come back across it. But and my daughter, she was going place called Raymondville, Texas, which is kind of south Texas, kind of like the border area of Mexico and Texas.
Yeah, yeah,
And so she was going down that way, and she said she was in the back seat. Her mom was driving, and she said she was in the back seat. She kind of turned towards the window. It was nighttime, and she saw these lights, just right outside the car window, very close to her. And she thought it was her phone, the reflection from a phone, because she had her phone sitting on her lap. So she looked down, her phone was off. So when she looked up again, she saw that object, and whatever it was, it was falling along the car. She's also it just zipped back the other direction. She said it looked like almost like he was skipping across the sky when it skipped across. But she described that one as that triangle with no corners, kind of that trapezoid type of craft.
Yeah, 3B.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's they move on. Now they can glide, but
Right.
what your daughter described is Bob Lazar called it the Omicron configuration for the gravity generators. It jumps from place to place.
Mhm.
It opens up the space in front of it, closes the space behind it, and just falls forward.
Okay. Well, you know what? The way she described it, I don't know if you ever seen that movie Jumper.
Yes.
That kid, okay, she said that's the way it moved. That's how she described the way it moved. She goes, it moved like that kid on Jumper, the way he would like jump around the room, bam, bam, bam. She said, that's the way it skipped across the sky. Yeah.
Yep. They open up the well in front of them, and they just fall forward, and they're gone for a split second because they've opened up basically a wormhole, and that's the way they skip across. Now, when they fly at high speed, that's a little bit different, and that's actually riding the gravity waves of the Earth is what several physicists that I have talked to feel that it is. I'm a great fan of Bob Lazar. I know a lot of people don't think he told the truth. I think he did. Now, for years, Groom Lake said, no S4, not out here, does not exist. Go out on Google Earth on your computer, not on the phone or not the app, but just go to the site Google Earth and type in S4, and you will get the hangars and the R&D.
Okay, S4, I remember that.
Yeah, it's so interesting. When I was at Tech, they had, a friend of mine kind of verified one of mine. He said that he looked up one night, he had gone out for whatever, and just this round disc was rising up between President's and West Hall. And he goes, it just rose up and just went out towards the Mogollon Mountains. And I went, well, that could have been mine. I don't know. But I have talked to more people after we had gotten out of Tech that had experiences there. And I went, that they wouldn't, they didn't talk about.
Let me ask you about this. What do you think about the Roswell crash? Do you think that was an actual event?
I can tell you a whole lot about it. My folks grew up in Cedarvale and Corona, which is where the crash actually took place. Was nearer Corona than Roswell, but Roswell was the home of the bomb wing. Atomic bomb wing, 609th, I think it was. So there were 3 crashes that day. There was the one in Corona. There was one closer to Roswell. And then there was one on the plains of San Augustine out by Socorro, which now contains the VLA, the Very Large Array. of movable radio telescopes out in the middle of where this craft crashed in 47. Now, the thing about all three of these is that all three got wrapped up into one story. And there's several bits and pieces of it that aren't quite right. Mac Brazel, yes, he found something that left probably a half a mile worth of debris, and it dug a trench. And the trench it dug was vitrified. So it came in, it skipped, and it embedded at the base of a mesa about maybe 2-3 miles away. That, when they picked up all of that, my dad actually got to handle some of the foil.
Okay.
And he said there was absolutely no way you could do anything to it. He tried cutting it. He tried burning it with a welder. He tried everything he could, and he couldn't do a damn thing to it.
Wow.
Now, the interesting thing, I had always heard from various sundry people in Roswell that there had been a cowboy who had collected a cigar box of remnants of whatever that went down there. He was Jesse Wade's son. Wade owned the bar in Corona. I'm named after him. My dad wanted me to have his initials. He just hated his name. So I'm named after Wade. So his son was the one who had the box, and he had made mention of it at Jesse's bar, and the next day, military police arrive, and this is years later. Military police arrive, escort him out to the cave where he kept the box, and took it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's the stuff that goes on is very, very, very peculiar. I have been following ufology my whole life, and I have not seen it as divided right now as it is, and I don't know why that is. We should be working together to get this information out, and it seems like everybody has their own agenda now. It's
right.
Well,
the sad part about that is that it's not just in the UFO groups. I see it now in the paranormal groups, and it's been like that in the Bigfoot groups for a while too. And unfortunately, now it seems like our whole country is divided over crazy stuff. And I don't know what it is with the vision. It just seems like it's the cool thing to do, I guess. I don't know, but yet everyone talks about unity and uniting, but I don't know. They
don't do it.
Yeah. Nobody does on either side,
No,
and
they don't. And I always like to say to people who like to say that they're great Christian belief, if they truly believed it, they would live it.
Right.
And they don't.
Nope.
I myself am a pagan, have been for years, but hello?
Yeah, I hear you. I got you.
What the heck? You got me? Okay.
Yeah,
because somehow I don't have you.
Yeah, you just kind of froze up a little bit, but I can still hear you.
Let me see if I can. Okay, you can still hear me? Can you still see me?
I can. You're frozen, but I mean, you're good.
Okay, so anyway, it's please. My phone. I would give this phone to anybody. I really would. It just is irritating, but yeah, they don't want to get to the bottom of this.
Right.
It's they are right. It will upend our civilization as we know it. because we're no longer on the oil teat. So that's gone. With the new graphene, I don't know if you're aware of this. They've came up with a molecule thin layer of graphene. It's part of the new nanotechnology. The other thing about it is through its Brownian motion, it is a perpetual motion machine. You don't have to put energy, you only have to put energy in it to get it started. And from then on out, it converts its own motion, a Brownian motion, into electrical energy.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard about that technology.
Yeah, it's so that's you know, they go, oh, this can only work as a small thing. Well, that's fine. If you do and you get it small, would you please put it in my phone? Because
yeah,
that Jesus,
yeah.
my phone hates me. There we go. Anyway, but it's for us to progress as a species, we're going to have to get past this us and them stuff.
Right. Yeah.
It's the one thing that is truly blocking us. And my theory is they're not going to let us out of this planet until we straighten ourselves up.
Yeah, you know, it's funny that you say that, because the person I was talking to last night was saying, you know, the same thing, that we're not really allowed to leave the planet yet.
Yeah, we're not. It's like we're misbehaving school children.
Right.
Really, I like Dr. Stephen Greer. I like to listen to him. I like his philosophy. If they were going to take us out, they would have done it already.
Right.
But it's that simple. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with this, or if your viewers and listeners are. Werner von Braun, which lots of people have their opinions, and I have mine, and I don't particularly care for Operation Paperclip, but it did bring us Werner. Anyway, he said on his deathbed that the way this was all going to work out, and it's odd that he said this in 1974, so that's what, 46 years ago. He said the way it would work out would be, first it would be the communists. That would be the problem. We would have to deal with the communists. But then that wouldn't go. So then it would become third world countries. Those would be our problems. And what he's talking about are DIWs, or false flags.
Right.
He goes, the third one will be crazies. The fourth one will be terrorists. And he goes, the last one, which I think it's...
Well, it looks like we finally lost him. Let me see if I can't get him back on here.
And I will.
We'll see what. I think it's just probably connection. Get him back on here. Bear with me 1 minute, folks. I send him the link. Yeah, if you guys didn't watch the show last night, the other guy was very, very. He was very interesting too. He had he said the same thing this guy was saying, that we're not allowed to leave the planet because you know, we just aren't ready to do that. You know, we're so primitive, and not just our technology, but in the way that we behave. You know, we're not very good people. We're not a very good race of people. But this guy, he has a pretty good a pre-interview. Yeah, he's a pretty funny guy. A good dude too, man. He's really a good guy. I hope the fact that he moves around a lot doesn't bother anyone. He does have ALS. He used to play guitar, and he can no longer do that. He played for like 35 years, but I think this is him now. Let me get back on here.
There we go.
Hey, there we go. Okay, good deal. Good deal.
Yeah, it's anyway. It what they end up doing. He is just. They're handing the military a ticket. Is what they're handing them. I get out a free jail card. You can do whatever you want. People go, oh, they would never kill U.S. citizens. Sure,
Right. Yeah.
Why? I mean, we've had the proof of a second shooter on Kennedy, at least 1 second shooter, for 57 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the Zapruder film. But you really have to be someone who hunts to understand the difference between what happened. The bullets that they recovered from his neck and the one that magically fell out of Connolly's thigh were solid.
Right.
They were solid lead. The one that took his head off is called a frangible bullet. And a solid bullet won't do that. It'll just pass through.
Yeah, like a Full Metal Jacket type of bullet, right? Yeah.
Yeah. This thing just went boom. So he got hit with a high speed. And if you look at the film, there is 2 yellow stripes painted on a curb. It's the exact length of that limo.
Oh,
and
okay.
when it was right there when he got hit. So
Let me ask you this. Besides the whole grassy knoll area, do you think there was somebody closer?
oh yeah.
Yeah, because I know that's a theory too. That the second shooter was actually a lot closer than that, and may have been in one of the vehicles or at least in proximity to one of those vehicles.
Yeah, yeah. One of the theories is that one of the agents
Yes,
had accidentally discharged his 223, and
right.
that would do it. That would
Right.
definitely do it. Except the agents were from behind, and the shot came from front. Yeah, it's there was an interesting X-Files that dealt with it, and the cigar smoking man, whatever he was called.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who killed Kennedy, and he
Yeah.
did it from the sewer.
Oh, okay.
If you got down the sewer, you've got an upward shot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's there's so many places around that area, and it would be classified a choke point.
Okay.
You had to slow down to make that turn.
Right.
As soon as everything slowed down, you're in the kill zone.
Mm-hmm.
And they started. And if you listen to it, you actually hear 5 shots.
Okay.
Two of them struck Kennedy. God knows where the other 3 went.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. And the piece of crap rifle that what's his name had wouldn't have done that. You can't hit the broadside of a barn with a Caracano. Kennedy, I think, was put down for 3 reasons. 1, he wanted to get rid of the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame him.
Right.
2, he chatted a little bit too much with Marilyn Monroe in bed.
Yeah.
And he wanted to also turn loose the UFO files.
Right.
And there's been a declassified memo in which they're talking about Lancer, which was what his code name was.
Yeah.
For the Secret Service, that Lancer wanted to release all this material, and that was it. That came out on the 21st, and he was dead on the 23rd.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's just strange. Uh, Speaking of really crazy, I don't know if it's happening where you are. It is here. It started off, I watched two TR-3Bs over Griffith Observatory dogfight.
Hmm.
Now, I don't think they were alien TR-3Bs because they were desert camo, but they could have been, I guess. They sat there and the movements were just amazing. And they stopped suddenly, one on top of the other, probably about maybe 50 feet above each other, 1,000 feet off the deck. The top one, I've tried to explain this to people and they go, well, it exploded. You saw a bright light. No, that's not quite it. There was a bright light and then it wasn't there.
Okay.
That's what I saw. And I was watching this through a pair of binoculars because I thought they were birds.
Oh, okay.
The bottom one, however, pivoted on one of its corners and took off to the northeast, which is kind of the direction of Groom Lake, Papoose Lake, Tonopah, that sort of thing. So that's there. Now we have military helicopters constantly. Last year they did flashbangs and landing in Los Angeles. Now we have fully armed. That's what really catches my eye. Fully armed Apaches coming over.
Wow.
There's 50 caliber hanging out one side with a belt through it. One went by with 2 tubes full of Hellfire missiles. We see 5, 6, 7 a day. And there's no air base anywhere near us.
Right. Right.
So I don't know what all of this is about.
Kind of reminds you of that old story. Remember that old story? I don't know if it was right before World War II or right after it started when they had that little shootout outside of LA, as a matter of fact, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It reminds me of that.
It was the Battle of Los Angeles.
Yeah, and they didn't hit anything.
It's odd that you should mention that. I worked for the LA Times for a brief bit when I first moved here. And they had the original paper in their hallway with the picture right on the paper.
Oh.
It's amazing. And I'm looking at this, you can see the outline of the craft very well against those spotlights and then against the bursts. And I'm sitting there going, and yet they didn't find anything. There are people who say they shot it down. I don't think so. I very seriously doubt we affected that craft at all. We had 4 deaths here.
Really?
From it, 2 heart attacks, 2 were hit by shrapnel.
Okay.
11 rounds were discharged. There's a woman here who still has a piece of shrapnel in her knee.
Wow.
So 1,511 rounds into the sky and there's nothing there. I don't buy that. The government thinks we're stupid. And to a certain extent, we probably are.
Right.
We're not as stupid as they would assume.
Right. That's pretty cool. I would love to have seen that picture, though.
You should. If you ever get out here, I will take you down to the Times. They will let me back in, and I will show you that picture. I have never coveted, and that goes all the way back to a Les Paul 1959 Sunburst. I have never coveted something as much as I did that piece of paper. I wanted that so badly to hang up in my
Yeah, that'd have been awesome. But hey, we're coming up on the hour. I just want to ask you, do you have anything to say to people if especially
any
those and I just wanted to say if you have anything to say to people who maybe who have had sightings or encounters and are maybe afraid to come out and talk about it, what would you say to those people?
Don't be afraid. I'm going to say the same thing to them that I said that Robert Bigelow said to a news reporter. She asked him about aliens, and he goes, "They exist." And she goes, "Aren't you afraid that by saying that, people are going to think you need to wear a tinfoil hat?" And he goes, "I'm not going to deny something I know to be true." And that's what I tell people. If it happened, it's truly happened to you, then you need to come forward. You need to tell the tale. If it's just a sighting, one of the, people always go, "Oh, it's just a sighting." One of the strangest sightings I had here, we had gone down to see the Black Panther movie, and we had taken public transportation down. So it was late. We got out, walk across Fairfax or 3rd Street. We're at Fairfax and 3rd. Across the street is Dupre's restaurant. There's a palm tree on the one corner, and 126 feet further on down is another palm tree. So there's one other guy standing there. We're waiting for the bus. When all of a sudden, out of this one palm tree comes this, about the size of a soccer ball, maybe, brilliant, white, self-illuminated, not reflecting anything, light, shoots 126 feet faster than I can see it. To me, it just leaves a string of like a trail of light behind it. Goes right behind that other palm tree and disappears. Now, there's one that lasted less than a second, and if you tell somebody, they're going to look at you and go, "Yeah, sure it did." Except the kid that was listening to his iTunes turns and looks at me and goes, "What the was that?" I said, "Well, it was flying, and we don't know what it was, so unidentified flying object is what I would call it. I think it was plasma, but it's my own personal." It never came out behind the other side of that. It just went and gone. He saw it as green. I saw it as white.
Oh, wow.
And that's my thing is, well, I think it's part of the, it's called the Doppler effect. And as a light is coming towards you, it'll be green. And as it's going away from you, it's red.
Okay.
So he saw it coming towards him. It went straight in front of me. I mean, it was just like it was put there for me. My wife, who was standing next to me, never saw it. She goes, "Why do you always see these and I don't?" They don't like it. I don't know. Yeah. But I would tell people, don't be afraid. You're not crazy. Mm-hmm. There's more people who are out there than most people would think that would be willing. And that's how that blog that I did for a few years after I first came out here, that's how they got me to do it, was so in case somebody else was having problems, they could relate to that blog. And I know I read some of the comments that were there. I know I helped a few people, and I'm really glad about that, because it's really hard. People will come up to me and they'll start talking about whatever, and I'll be glad to talk to them about it. And then if I bring up anything paranormal, anything, then that's it. They automatically write me off and walk away.
Right. I know the feeling.
I have 3 degrees, and I'm automatically written off and walked away. And I'm sitting there going, this world is far more mystical and magical than what people think it is.
I agree with you on that. I definitely. And you know, it's. I seem like the UFO and alien phenomenon is so much different than paranormal or even Bigfoot, because you talk about those, and it's like even if people think you're crazy, they can kind of write that off as you're seeing things out in the woods, shadows, lights, different animals, misidentification. Paranormal, people can kind of write that off too a little bit, I guess. But you telling me you saw a spacecraft or an alien or a ball of light shooting from, they kind of like really write you off as crazy at that point.
Oh yeah, I mean they're making the tinfoil hat for you right at the time you're talking to them.
But I think it's good that you come out and you talk about this stuff, because, like I said, you're the third person that I've talked to in a short time that has kind of corroborated with other people what they've seen and experienced. And there's people out there who don't know how to come forward or at least come to terms with it, even on their own private, way. And I think hearing it from other people can kind of help them out with that. And, that's part of what I want to do too,
Yeah. And see how to, here, there was a week here that I know I was taken. I would find my wedding ring. Well, first I found this, which is a Masonic ring, and nobody in my family is Masonic. And it was laying on my bedside table. Then my wedding ring and this ring would be off my hand, and my wedding ring would be down under the bed at the foot of the bed, and then up at the head of the bed would be the Masonic ring. So this went on for about a week. Those little metal crickets, I don't know if you remember them as a kid, but you go click, 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 click.
Yeah.
That woke me up one night. All the lights in the room were on. To hell with it. Went back to sleep. Woke up one night, and we have an attic, but it's not a finished attic. So you can't really walk around up there. But I am hearing boot steps, heel toe, boom, 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 dragging what sounds like a body. Turn around, went back to sleep. I think our world is far, far, far larger than what people think it is.
Yeah,
far larger.
Yeah.
Oh, lots. Friend of mine and I had a psilocybin experience for 3 days, and we both, again, hallucinated a little guy. Now, the guy I saw, we both saw the same thing, but we saw it at different times. He looked like a little yard gnome. Had that little hat, had that little pipe. He was smiling. I was sleeping on a couch, and I was looking at him, and I'm going, God, I'd like to come down. And he winks at me, and he goes through the house, and he goes into Rex's room. And the next morning, we get up, and Rex looks at me, and he goes, you're not going to believe the hallucination I had. I said, what? He goes, this little guy was smoking a pipe with a hat about this. I went, oh, shit. Okay. And then another friend of mine had the same thing happen to him up in New Mexico, up in the Jemez. He went to sleep underneath a tree. He was surrounded by little people who came to help him.
Yeah. Those are
Albert.
Yeah, those are a thing. People see them.
Yeah. I said, Albert, they like you. If they came to help you, they like you. But there's things that people like to just blow off, and you can't.
I don't know if you can read the comment on here. Terrence McKenna.
Pardon me?
I don't know if you can read the comments on the screen. This Tara McKenna said the same thing. I'm not sure who Terrence McKenna is. I imagine they saw a gnome.
Terrence McKenna.
Yeah.
Terrence and Douglas McKenna, my two favorite people in the world. They were both botanists. They went to the Amazon and did research on ayahuasca initially.
Okay.
They're, I love, in fact, somebody who knew them said I look a lot like Doug. Doug, he was, I have every book those guys put out. Always wanted to go down and do an ayahuasca ceremony. Always did. Never got to.
Well, cool. All right, man. I think went over our time, but I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, I definitely want to get you back on. We'll talk about the other project that I want to work on with. Yeah, yeah. Or we can continue on with this conversation too. I mean, it's like every time you go down one rabbit hole, there's another little rabbit hole we can go down. So talking
there's a bunch of rat holes. Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, and you're one of the guys to go down those rabbit holes with. But I'm going to make a slight confession, and I feel bad about it. It was during all this election stuff, and I said, well, why don't a friend of mine, I go, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? She goes, oh, take me as far down as you can. I said, okay, I'll take you down. You're not going to like what you see. She converted to a Trumper. Really?
Yeah. She converted to a Trumper. And I went, I feel bad now.
Well, they both have rabbit holes. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah. And she goes, you're not going to stop liking me, because I go, politics is politics. Friends are friends, and tribe is a whole nother thing.
Right.
And you're the tribe. So no, I don't care. Yeah, I don't care who you vote for. That's yours. I like you for you. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
But I would love to come back on, talk about anything you want.
Yes, sir. And like I said, you're definitely the guy to do that, I think, And I just want to say thanks to everyone in the chat room again, man. You guys are always great. You always have a lot of great comments. You keep me laughing. I'm sorry if I laughed at people in the comments.
That's fine. That's fine.
But yeah, like I said, any last words for these people, Mr. Wade?
I appreciate you having me on. I'll be on anytime you want. I'm really readily available.
Okay, cool. All right, guys. I thank everyone for tuning in, and once again, thank you, Mr. Wade, and give me one.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Joe. I really appreciate it.